Rebecca's small phone began to ring just as the evening sky turned orange over the rusty roofs of the compound. She froze. The bread tray she had been cleaning slipped a little in her hands. Her heart started beating fast for no clear reason at first. Almost nobody called her. Nobody, except maybe the woman she now called Mama Dora. The phone kept ringing. Rebecca wiped her hands quickly on her faded skirt and picked it up. Hello? For a second, all she heard was noise. A car engine. Voices. Then Dora's voice came through, shaky but excited. Rebecca, my daughter, do not go anywhere. Please wait for me. I am coming with someone. Rebecca frowned. Mama, with who? There was a pause. Then Dora said softly, almost like she still could not believe it herself, with my son. Rebecca's fingers tightened around the phone. Mine, her son? The same son who had allowed his wife to throw this old woman out like trash. The same son who never came looking for her while she sat in dust and cold by the roadside. Rebecca opened her mouth to speak, but Dora had already ended the call. For a moment, everything around her felt still. Children were running across the compound, chasing a flat football made from tied nylon bags. Someone nearby was frying a kara. A woman in the next room was arguing with her husband over money. From far away, a generator coughed to life, but Rebecca heard none of it clearly. Her mind was stuck on one sentence. I am coming with my son. She looked down at her phone again, as if it might explain more. It did not. Then, before she could make sense of anything, the sound of a car entered the narrow street outside her compound. Not a normal car, a deep, smooth sound, heavy, expensive. Rebecca slowly stepped toward the doorway of her tiny room and peered outside. The dusty compound, where Kiki riders hardly liked to enter because of the potholes, had suddenly fallen quiet. Neighbors were already turning their heads. A few children stopped playing. Even the woman frying a kara leaned out to look. Then the black SUV rolled in. Clean, shiny, so polished that the evening light danced on its body. Rebecca's breath caught in her throat. The car stopped right in front of their building. And when the back door opened, Dora stepped out first. Not in the old wrapper she used to wear on the roadside. No. This time she wore a fresh blue Ankara gown and a small scarf tied neatly around her grey hair. Her face looked fuller, cleaner, stronger. Like life had returned to her, like the dust of that road had finally let her go. Rebecca's eyes widened. Then a man stepped out after her, tall, dark-skinned. Well-dressed, maybe in his late 30s or early 40s. His shirt looked expensive, and his wristwatch flashed once under the fading sun. But it was not his clothes that made Rebecca stare. It was his face. He looked like Dora. The same eyes, the same nose, the same quiet sadness hiding under the skin. Rebecca's mouth went dry. Dora turned, saw her at the doorway, and lifted a trembling hand. My daughter, she called, and in that instant, with every curious eye in the compound fixed on her, Rebecca knew her life was standing at the edge of something huge. Something she never planned for, something that had started with one loaf of bread. But to understand why her knees suddenly felt weak, you have to go back to the beginning, back to a dusty road in a small community on the outskirts of Ibadan. Back to the first morning Rebecca saw Dora. The road was always busy before sunrise, not with cars, not really, with people. Women carrying baskets on their heads, school children in washed-out uniforms, men pushing wheelbarrows, motorcycle riders shouting for passengers. The smell of dust, hot oil, and early smoke always hung in the air. Rebecca knew every bend of that road. She walked it each morning with a wide metal tray of bread balanced on her head, one hand steadying it as she called out in a soft but steady voice, "Fresh bread, sweet bread, buy your fresh bread." She was 20 years old, but life had already pressed hard on her shoulders. Her mother had died when she was 16. Her father had followed 2 years later, after a long sickness that swallowed every naira they had. Since then, Rebecca had lived alone in a small one-room space in Oda-Ona, near the old mechanic sheds and a broken community tap that only worked when it wanted to. She sold bread in the mornings. In the afternoons, she helped a woman package chin-chin for extra money. At night, when her eyes were already heavy and her feet ached, she still opened her old notebooks and studied by rechargeable lamp. She had one stubborn dream she refused to bury. University. She did not even say it too loudly anymore. Dreams can sound foolish when your roof leaks. Still, she kept saving, little by little. One 500 naira note, 200, 50, coins sometimes. Her bread business was not just bread to her, it was school fees, food, rent, hope. That was why the first time she saw the old woman by the roadside, she looked away. Not because she was cruel, because she was afraid. Afraid of pity, afraid that if she stopped to care, she would not know how to stop. The old woman sat near a broken drainage edge, under a leaning electric pole. Her wrapper was dusty, her shoulders looked small beneath it. She did not stretch her hand at people or shout for help like some beggars did. She only sat there, staring ahead, as if she had gone too deep into her pain to speak. People passed. Nobody stopped. A woman selling tomatoes nearly stepped on her foot and hissed instead of apologizing. Two boys laughed and called her mad. A man in a clean white shirt threw a sachet water on the ground close to her and kept walking. Rebecca passed too, but something stayed with her. Maybe it was the woman's eyes. They were not wild, not empty. They were tired, yes, but dignified, like someone who had not always been on the ground. That evening, Rebecca could not forget her. She boiled Gary, ate it with groundnut, then sat on her mattress in silence. The old woman's face returned to her again and again. By morning, guilt had followed her out of bed. She arranged the bread on her tray and started her route, but when she reached the roadside and saw the old woman still there, in the same spot, something inside her gave way. Rebecca stopped. Her heart beat fast. She looked at the bread on her tray, counted quickly in her head. Every loaf mattered. Still, and she bent down. "Mama," she said gently. The old woman lifted her head slowly, almost like she was surprised that the voice was meant for her. Rebecca picked one loaf from the tray and placed it in her hand. "Take this and eat. I will bring you water." The woman blinked. "For me?" "Yes. For you." The woman's hand shook. Rebecca hurried to a nearby kiosk, bought a sachet of water from her own pocket, and came back. She tore it open for her and waited while she drank. Up close, she could see how weak the woman really was. Her lips were dry. Her eyes were red from too much sun and too many tears. "What is your name, Mama?" Rebecca asked softly. The old woman swallowed with effort. "Dora." "My name is Rebecca." Dora stared at her for a long moment. Then she whispered, "God will remember you." Rebecca smiled, but something hurt inside her chest when she heard that. The blessing sounded too deep, too desperate. "I will pass here tomorrow," Rebecca said. "Do not worry." Maybe she said it casually. Maybe she did not fully mean to make a promise that big. But Dora held her gaze as if that one sentence had become a blanket over cold night air. Rebecca walked away before her eyes could fill with tears. That day, she sold less bread than usual. Giving one away had reduced her count. Buying water had cut into her profit too. She tried not to think about it. But when she sat later, counting the day's money on her thin mattress, the gap was there. Small, yet painful. She closed her eyes, then opened them again. "Tomorrow," she told herself, "I will still go." And she did. The next morning she brought bread again. This time, she also brought tea in a small plastic cup. Dora looked at her like she was seeing a miracle happen in daylight. "Child, why?" she asked, her voice trembling. Rebecca shrugged, trying to sound light. "Because you must eat before this sun becomes wicked." Dora gave a weak laugh. It was the first time Rebecca heard that sound from her, and it nearly broke her heart. From that day, a pattern began. Every morning, Rebecca stopped. Bread, water, sometimes tea, sometimes just a few extra minutes to sit on an upturned paint bucket near Dora and talk before continuing her sales. And slowly the woman began to open up. Not all at once, little pieces, a cough, a sad smile, a sentence half finished. Rebecca learned that Dora had once lived in Lagos, that she had a son, that her husband had died many years ago, and that village life had not saved her. That silence could wound more deeply than hunger. But still, Rebecca did not know the full story. Not yet. She only knew this. Each time she left Dora on that roadside, something inside her felt wrong, especially at night. Especially when the Harmattan wind began to grow sharper. One evening, after returning home tired and dusty, Rebecca sat outside her room with a plate of rice and stew. She looked at the empty space beside her and suddenly imagined Dora outside, under open sky, shivering through the dark. She could not swallow. She put down the spoon. Inside the room, there was hardly any space. One thin mattress, one small wooden stool, one plastic bucket, a crate she used as a table, a single pot on a kerosene stove. The walls were cracked. The window net had a tear, and the bulb flickered whenever power came. It was not a home anyone would choose, but it was still a home. Rebecca stood up so fast her stool almost fell. Before fear could stop her, she grabbed her scarf and rushed out into the night. Back to the roadside. Back to Dora. And when she got there and saw the old woman curled up near the drainage edge, hugging herself against the cold, Rebecca's eyes filled at once. "Mama," she said, voice breaking, "stand up." Dora looked up slowly. "Rebecca, you cannot sleep here tonight." The old woman looked confused. "Where will I go?" Rebecca swallowed hard, then she said the words that would quietly change both their lives. "Come home with me." Dora's face went still, and just before she answered, headlights from an unfamiliar vehicle flashed across the dark roadside and stopped. Rebecca turned. A man was stepping out of the car, and the way Dora suddenly gasped behind her made the night feel dangerous. Very dangerous. The headlights cut through the dusty night like sharp blades. Rebecca's heart jumped. For a second she thought maybe it was just another driver asking for directions. But something about the way the car stopped, the way the engine stayed on, made her uneasy. Slowly she turned back to Dora, and what she saw made her chest tighten. Dora was no longer just tired. She was afraid, not the kind of fear that comes from hunger or cold. This was deeper. Her fingers clutched Rebecca's wrapper. Her eyes were fixed on the man stepping out of the car, wide and shaking. "Rebecca," she whispered, almost breathless, "let us go." Rebecca blinked. "Mama, do you know him?" Dora did not answer. The man shut the car door and began to walk toward them. His shoes made a soft crunch against the gravel. He was tall, wearing a simple shirt and trousers, but there was something about his presence that did not feel simple. He walked like someone used to being obeyed. Rebecca's throat went dry. "Madam," the man called out, his voice calm but firm, "please wait." Dora's grip tightened. "Rebecca, let us go now," she said again, this time louder. Rebecca hesitated. Her mind raced. Was this man dangerous? Was he someone who had hurt Dora before? But then the man stopped a few steps away, raising his hand slightly. "I am not here to harm you," he said quickly. "I only want to talk." Silence fell between them. Rebecca stepped slightly in front of Dora without even thinking about it. It was a small movement, but it said everything. And the man noticed. His eyes softened for a brief moment. "You are protecting her," he said quietly, almost like he respected it. Rebecca didn't respond. "Who are you?" she asked instead. The man exhaled slowly. "My name is Musa," he said. "I work for someone. Someone who has been looking for her." Dora shook her head quickly. "No, no. I don't want to go anywhere." Musa looked at her with something that almost looked like pity. "Madam Dora," he said gently, "your son has been searching for you." That name hung in the air like thunder waiting to strike. Rebecca turned sharply to Dora. "Your son," she whispered. Dora's eyes filled with tears instantly. "No," she said, shaking her head. "It is too late." Musa took one careful step closer. "It is not too late," he said. "He made a mistake, a terrible mistake. But he has been looking everywhere for you." Rebecca's mind spun. This was the same son Dora had barely spoken about, the same one whose silence had pushed her mother to the streets. Now, suddenly, he was searching. Something did not add up. "Where has he been all this time?" Rebecca asked, her voice rising slightly. "When she was sleeping here, when people were stepping over her, when she had nothing to eat." Musa paused. He did not answer immediately. That silence said more than any excuse could. Rebecca shook her head. You should leave, she said firmly. Dora nodded quickly, wiping her tears. Yes, please go. Musa looked between them. Then he sighed. I understand your anger, he said quietly, but I am not here to force anything. I only came because he asked me to search every road, every market, every place he could not go himself. He reached into his pocket slowly and brought out a small card. If you change your mind, call this number. He placed it gently on the ground, not too close, not too far. Then he stepped back. But before he turned to leave, he looked at Rebecca again. You are a good person, he said. People like you are rare. Rebecca did not respond. She just watched him walk back to the car. The engine revved softly, and then he was gone. The road fell quiet again. Only the sound of distant generators and night insects filled the air. Rebecca let out a breath she didn't know she had been holding. Then she turned to Dora. Mama, she said softly, tell me the truth. Who is that man? Dora sank slowly back onto the edge of the drainage, like her strength had suddenly left her. My son, she whispered. He is not a small man. Rebecca frowned. What do you mean? Dora looked up at her, tears slipping down her cheeks. He is rich, Rebecca, very rich. He lives in Lagos. Big house, cars, company. Rebecca's eyes widened slightly. Then why? She began, but the words failed her. Why was she here? Why was she abandoned? Why did a rich son allow his mother to sit in dust? Dora seemed to understand the question without hearing it fully. Because of his wife, she said, her voice breaking. She did not like me. She said I was old-fashioned, that I brought shame, that I did not belong in their world. Rebecca clenched her fists. And your son? She asked quietly. Dora closed her eyes. He chose her. The words fell like stones. Rebecca felt something rise inside her chest, not just anger, not just pain, something stronger. How can a son do that? She whispered. Dora gave a weak smile. Sometimes, love can blind people, she said. Sometimes, fear too. Rebecca shook her head. No, she said firmly, that is not love. There was silence again, the kind that sits heavy between two people who understand pain too well. Then Rebecca bent down slowly and reached for Dora's hand. Come, she said. Dora looked up at her. To where? She asked. Rebecca swallowed. To my house. Dora's eyes widened. No, I cannot disturb you, she said quickly. You are already doing too much. Rebecca shook her head. You are not a disturbance, she said softly. You are my mother now. The words slipped out before she could think, and the moment they did, something changed. Dora's lips trembled. My daughter, she whispered. Rebecca forced a small smile. My house is small, she said, very small, but we will manage. Dora looked at her for a long time, then slowly, she nodded. Rebecca helped her stand. Her body was lighter than it should have been, too light, like life had been slowly leaving her. Together they began to walk. The road felt longer than usual. Each step carried weight, fear, hope, uncertainty. Behind them, the card Musa had dropped lay on the dusty ground, forgotten. Or maybe not forgotten, just ignored, for now. Rebecca's room looked even smaller that night. As soon as they entered, Dora paused at the doorway. Her eyes scanned the space slowly, the thin mattress, the single pot, the cracked wall, the flickering bulb. She looked back at Rebecca, her expression filled with something heavy. You live here? Alone? She asked. Rebecca nodded. It is enough, she said simply. Dora swallowed hard. Rebecca quickly moved around, trying to make the place feel more welcoming than it really was. Sit here, Mama, she said, dusting the mattress quickly. Dora lowered herself carefully. Rebecca lit the stove. The smell of kerosene filled the air. Soon the sound of boiling rice replaced the silence. She moved quickly, almost nervously, like if she stopped, she might start thinking too much. Within a short time, she served a plate of jollof rice, not rich, not fancy, but warm. She placed it gently in Dora's hands. Eat, she said. Dora stared at the plate, then at Rebecca. Tears filled her eyes again. I cannot remember the last time someone cooked for me like this, she said softly. Rebecca looked away. Just eat, Mama. Dora took a spoon. Her hand shook slightly. Then she began. Slowly at first, then faster, like someone afraid the food might disappear. Rebecca watched quietly. Something inside her chest tightened again. After eating, Dora leaned back against the wall, her eyes already closing. Rebecca brought out the small drugs she had bought days earlier. For cold, she said gently. Dora took them without question. Within minutes, she slept. Deep, peaceful, for the first time in a long time. Rebecca sat beside her, watching, listening to her breathing. The room felt different now, not empty, not silent, alive. But even as that warmth filled the space, something else lingered. A question, a worry, a shadow that refused to leave. Rebecca's eyes slowly drifted to the door, then to the memory of the card Musa had left behind, and the words he had said. Your son has been searching for you. Rebecca swallowed. Because deep down, she knew this story was not over, not even close, and somewhere out there, a man who once abandoned his mother was now coming back. And when he did, everything would change. Rebecca did not sleep well that night. She lay on the edge of the thin mattress, her body still, her eyes open. Beside her, Dora slept deeply, the kind of sleep that comes after too many nights without rest. Her breathing was slow, uneven at first, then steady. At one point, she turned slightly and whispered something in her sleep. Rebecca leaned closer. Don't send me away. Her chest tightened. She looked up at the ceiling. The bulb flickered once, twice, then steadied again. Outside, a dog barked. Somewhere far away, music played faintly from a bar. A baby cried in the next compound. Life continued, but inside that small room, something had shifted. Rebecca closed her eyes. She tried to rest, but her mind kept replaying the same thing. The car, the man, the words. Your son has been searching for you. She turned slowly and looked at Dora again. Could it be true? Could someone who abandoned his own mother suddenly wake up and start searching? Or was there something else? Something they didn't know yet? Rebecca finally drifted into a light sleep just before dawn. The next morning came quickly, too quickly. Rebecca woke up to the sound of Dora coughing softly. She sat up immediately. Mama. Dora opened her eyes slowly. For a moment she looked confused, like she didn't recognize where she was. Then her eyes found Rebecca, and her face softened. My daughter, she whispered. Rebecca smiled. How are you feeling? Dora tried to sit up. Better, she said. Much better. Rebecca quickly brought water for her to rinse her mouth. Then she stood up and adjusted her wrapper. I will go and sell bread, she said, but I will come back quickly. Do not worry. Dora nodded. But as Rebecca reached for her tray, Dora spoke again. Rebecca. She turned. Yes, Mama. Dora hesitated. Her fingers twisted the edge of the wrapper nervously. That man last night, she said slowly. If he comes again, do not send him away immediately. Rebecca frowned slightly. You want to see him? Dora shook her head. I don't know, she admitted. My heart is confused. Rebecca stepped closer. You don't have to decide now, she said gently. Just rest. Dora gave a small nod. Rebecca lifted her tray of bread onto her head, balanced it carefully with her left hand, and stepped out into the morning. The road felt different that day. The same dust, the same people, the same noise. But Rebecca's mind was not there. She walked slower than usual. Her voice, when she called out, fresh bread, sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. Customers still came. A woman bought 2 loaves. A schoolboy begged for a discount. A man complained about the price, normal things. But Rebecca's thoughts kept drifting. What if the son really meant it? What if he truly wanted to find his mother? What if taking Dora away would be better for her? The thought made her chest tighten. Better or dangerous? Rebecca shook her head slightly. No, she would not trust easily. Or not after what Dora had suffered. Not after what she had seen with her own eyes. Still, Something about the man, Musa, had not felt like a lie. That confused her even more. She returned home earlier than usual. As she approached the compound, she noticed something strange. People were gathered. Not many, but enough to notice. Two women stood whispering near the entrance. A young boy pointed toward her room. Rebecca's heart skipped. She quickened her pace. "What is it?" she asked one of the women. The woman looked at her with wide eyes. "Some people came looking for that old woman," she said. Rebecca froze. "Who?" "Two men," the woman replied, well dressed. "They didn't stay long. They just asked questions and left." Rebecca's grip tightened on the tray. Her heart began to race. She didn't wait. She rushed into her room. "Mama!" Dora was sitting on the mattress, her hands clasped tightly together. Her face looked pale. Rebecca dropped the tray gently to the side. "What happened?" she asked, kneeling in front of her. Dora looked up slowly. "They came," she said. Rebecca swallowed. "The same man." Dora shook her head. "No, different ones." Rebecca's chest tightened. "What did they say?" Dora hesitated, then she spoke, her voice low. "They said, 'They are from my son.'" Rebecca's eyes narrowed slightly. "And?" "They asked if I am ready to return," Dora said. Rebecca felt something rise inside her, anger, sharp, protective. "And you?" she asked. Dora's lips trembled. "I told them, I am not sure." Rebecca exhaled slowly. "Good, but something still didn't feel right." "Did they say why your son didn't come himself?" she asked. Dora shook her head again. "They only said he is busy." Rebecca scoffed quietly. "Busy? For weeks, months, years? He was too busy to find his mother? Now suddenly he sends people?" Rebecca stood up slowly. Her mind was racing. "Mama," she said carefully, "I don't trust this." Dora looked at her. "I don't trust it either," she admitted. Silence filled the room. Then Dora spoke again. "There is something I did not tell you." Rebecca's heart skipped. "What is it?" Dora looked down at her hands, then back at Rebecca. "My son, Johnson," she said slowly. "He is not just rich." Rebecca frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" Dora took a deep breath. "He owns companies," she said. "Big ones. In Lagos, in Abuja, even outside Nigeria." Rebecca blinked. "At what?" Dora nodded. "He is powerful," she continued. "People know him, respect him, fear him sometimes." Rebecca's mind spun. This was bigger than she thought. Much bigger. "And his wife?" Rebecca asked. Dora's face hardened slightly. "She controlled everything," she said quietly. "His decisions, his time, even his relationship with me." Rebecca felt a chill run down her spine. Control, manipulation. Now it made more sense. "But if he was under her control," Rebecca said slowly, "why is he suddenly searching for you now?" Dora's eyes filled with tears again. "Because," she whispered, "they are no longer together." Rebecca's breath caught. "What?" Dora nodded. "He divorced her," she said. "That is what the men told me." The room fell silent. Rebecca's thoughts clashed against each other. Divorced, searching, sending people, cars, power. This was no longer just a simple family matter. This was something else, something that could change everything. For Dora, for her. Rebecca sat down slowly. Her head felt heavy. "Mama," she said quietly, "if this is true, then things are about to change." Dora looked at her. Fear and hope mixed in her eyes. "I am afraid," she admitted. Rebecca reached for her hand. "I know." They sat like that for a while, quiet, thinking, waiting. Then suddenly, a loud knock hit the door. Both of them jumped. Rebecca stood up slowly, her heart pounding. The knock came again, harder this time. "Rebecca," a voice called from outside. She froze. That voice. She recognized it. It was Musa, and this time, he did not sound like he came alone. Rebecca took a slow step toward the door, then another. Her hand reached for the handle. She paused, looked back at Dora. Dora nodded slowly, but her hands were shaking. Rebecca turned back to the door, took a breath, and opened it. What she saw made her heart drop instantly. Rebecca opened the door slowly. Her fingers trembled, just a little. And then she saw him. Not Musa. No, this time Musa stood slightly to the side. Behind him was a man, tall, still, dressed in a simple but expensive outfit that did not need to shout its value. A clean white shirt, dark trousers, polished shoes that looked out of place on the dusty floor of the compound. But it was not his clothes that made Rebecca freeze. It was his face, the same eyes, the same shape, the same quiet sadness, Dora's face, in a man's body. Rebecca's breath caught, and behind her she heard it. A soft, a broken whisper. Johnson. Rebecca turned. Dora had already stood up. Her body shook as she stared at the doorway. Her son, the one who left her, the one who was gone when she needed him most. Now, standing there. For a moment, nobody moved. The compound outside had fallen silent again. Neighbors pretended not to watch, but their eyes were there. Children stood still. Even the wind felt like it paused. Johnson took one step forward, then another, and suddenly he dropped to his knees, right there, on the dusty ground. "Mama?" His voice cracked. Dora's hands flew to her mouth. Rebecca stood frozen. She had expected many things: anger, excuses, maybe even pride. But not this. Not a grown man, kneeling like a child who had lost his way. "I am sorry," Johnson said, his head bowed. "Mama, I am so sorry." The words fell heavy, raw, real. Dora took a step forward, then stopped. Her body seemed caught between two worlds: pain and love. "You left me," she said softly. Johnson nodded, his shoulders shaking. "I know." "You watched her send me away." "I know." "You did not come for me." His voice broke completely. "I know." Silence, thick, heavy. Rebecca felt her own throat tighten. This was not just apology. This was regret. That had grown too big to hide. Johnson lifted his head slowly. Tears had filled his eyes. "Mama?" "I was wrong," he said. "I let someone else control my heart. I chose silence when I should have spoken. I chose peace in my house. Over you." Dora's face crumpled. "My son," she whispered. Johnson shook his head. "No, I was not a son," he said painfully. "Not then." Rebecca felt something shift inside her. This man, he was not pretending. You could not fake this kind of brokenness. But still, her guard did not drop. Not yet. Johnson wiped his face quickly. "I found out the truth too late," he continued. "All the lies she told me, all the things she said about you, they were not true." Dora's brows pulled together. "What lies?" Johnson swallowed. "She said you hated her, that you insulted her, that you wanted to control my money, my home." Dora shook her head immediately. "No, I never—" "I know," Johnson cut in softly. "I know now." He took a deep breath. "I asked the staff. I checked everything. I even went back to the village. Mama, I was blind." Rebecca crossed her arms slowly. "And now?" she asked. Johnson turned to her, for the first time. His eyes truly met hers, and in that moment, something passed between them. Recognition, respect, gratitude. "You are Rebecca," he said quietly. She didn't answer, but she didn't deny it either. Johnson nodded slightly. "I have heard about you," he said, "from Musa, from the people who saw you on that road." Rebecca's jaw tightened. "That road you never came to," she said. The words came out sharper than she expected. Musa shifted slightly behind him, but Johnson didn't get angry. He nodded. "You are right," he said. "No defense, no excuse, just truth." Rebecca felt it, and somehow that made it harder to stay angry. Still, she held her ground. "You don't get to appear now and take her away like nothing happened," she said firmly. Johnson lowered his head again. "I am not here to take," he said. I am here to ask." That stopped her. "Ask." Dora looked between them, torn, confused. "My son," she said slowly. "Why now?" Johnson looked up at her. "Because I finally lost everything that made me blind," he said. Dora frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" Johnson exhaled slowly. "My marriage is over," he said. My home is empty now. Silence fell again, not the same silence as before. This one carried consequences. I thought I had built a life, Johnson continued, but I realized I built it on the wrong foundation. He looked at her. You. Dora's eyes filled with tears again. You were my first home, he said softly, and I threw it away. Rebecca looked away for a moment. Even she felt that one. Johnson turned slightly, then gestured toward the SUV outside. I came to take you back, he said gently, but only if you want to come. Dora's hands trembled, her eyes moved slowly, from her son to Rebecca. That moment said everything. Rebecca saw it. She understood. This was no longer just about forgiveness. This was about choice, about loyalty, about love, in two different directions. Rebecca swallowed, then she spoke. If she goes, she said slowly, it will not be because of your car, or your house, or your money. Johnson nodded. I understand. It will be because she believes you have changed. He nodded again. I understand. And Rebecca paused. Her voice softened slightly. She will not go alone. Johnson blinked. What? Rebecca lifted her chin. She is not leaving me behind, she said. Dora gasped softly. Rebecca. Rebecca turned to her. I mean it, Mama, she said gently. If you go, I go. Johnson stared at her. For a moment, surprise flashed across his face. Then, something else, a small smile, respect. Then come, he said simply. Rebecca blinked. What? You heard me, Johnson said. Come with her. Just like that, no hesitation, no condition. Rebecca's heart skipped. This was happening too fast, too big, too unexpected. Dora began to cry softly. My children, she whispered. Johnson stood slowly. He reached out his hand. But this time, he did not grab. He waited. Dora looked at his hand, then at his face. Then slowly, she placed her hand in his, and in that moment, something broken began to heal. Minutes later, Rebecca stood inside her small room. Her hands moved quickly, packing, folding, gathering the few things she owned, clothes, her books, and her savings hidden in a small tin. Her heart beat fast. This was real, too real. From selling bread in dusty streets to stepping into something she could not even explain. She paused, looked around the room, the cracked walls, the mattress, the small stove, everything that had held her life together. Her eyes filled, but she wiped them quickly. No time for tears now. Outside, the SUV engine hummed softly. Waiting. Rebecca took a deep breath, then stepped out. Dora was already seated inside. Johnson stood by the door. He opened it for her. Rebecca hesitated for just 1 second. Then she stepped in. The door shut, and as the car began to move, Rebecca looked back, at the compound, at the dusty road, at the life she was leaving behind. Her chest tightened. But at the same time, something else rose inside her. Hope, fear, possibility. The SUV turned out of the narrow street and drove into the night. But as Rebecca leaned back against the seat, her phone buzzed suddenly. She frowned. Pulled it out. Unknown number. Her heart skipped. She answered slowly. Hello? The voice on the other end was calm, cold, and unfamiliar. You think your life has changed? The woman said. Rebecca's body went still. Who is this? A soft laugh. Then, it has only just begun. The line went dead. Rebecca lowered the phone slowly, her hands trembling, because somehow, deep down, she knew this was not over, not even close. Rebecca did not speak for the rest of the drive. She sat quietly in the back seat of the SUV, her fingers still wrapped tightly around her small phone. Or the words from that strange woman echoed again and again in her head. It has only just begun. Her heart beat faster. Beside her, Dora noticed. My daughter. What is it? She asked softly. Rebecca forced a small smile. Nothing, Mama, she said, but it was not nothing. Not at all. The journey to Lagos felt like entering another world. The roads became smoother, the houses grew taller, the air itself felt different. Rebecca pressed her face slightly toward the window, watching everything pass by. Bridges, streetlights, cars that looked too expensive to even touch. Then finally, they arrived. The gate opened slowly, tall, black, guarded. The SUV drove in, and Rebecca's breath caught. The mansion stood ahead, wide and beautiful, with bright lights reflecting off polished floors visible through large glass windows. Palm trees lined the driveway. A fountain stood quietly in the center. It looked like something from a movie. Not real, not her life, but somehow, she was there. The car stopped. A security man opened the door. "Welcome, sir," he said respectfully. Rebecca stepped out slowly. Her feet felt strange on the clean ground, too clean, too perfect. Dora held her hand. "Do not be afraid," she whispered. Rebecca nodded, but her heart was still racing. Inside, everything was even more beautiful. Soft lights, wide spaces, a smell of something fresh, expensive. A woman approached them. "Good evening, sir," she said. Johnson nodded. "This is my mother," he said gently. The woman bowed slightly. "Welcome, Ma." Dora smiled faintly. "And this is Rebecca," Johnson added. The woman turned. Her expression changed, just slightly. Surprise, curiosity. But she smiled anyway. "Welcome," she said. Rebecca nodded quietly, but inside, she felt it. The difference. She did not belong here, not yet. Days passed, then weeks. Rebecca slowly adjusted. She had her own room now, a bed that felt too soft at first, clothes she never imagined wearing, food she didn't have to count before eating. Dora became stronger each day. Her laughter returned, her voice carried life again. At night they would sit together, talk, laugh, sometimes cry. And slowly, Rebecca learned more about Dora, more about Johnson, more about the life she had stepped into. Johnson kept his promise. He treated Rebecca with respect, not like a servant, not like someone he was helping, but like family. Still, Rebecca never forgot where she came from. Every morning, she woke up early. Sometimes she stood by the balcony, looking out at the lagoon, thinking about the dusty road, the tray of bread, the life she once carried on her head, and each time, her chest filled with something she couldn't explain. Gratitude, and something else. Fear. Because deep down, she had not forgotten that call. One afternoon, it happened again. Her phone rang, the same unknown number. Rebecca's body stiffened. She stared at it. Then slowly, she answered. "Hello?" Silence. Then a soft voice, familiar now. "I see you have settled well." Rebecca's grip tightened. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice low, a small laugh. "You really don't know," the woman said. Rebecca's heart pounded. "No," she said firmly, "but I will find out." The voice changed slightly, colder. "Ah, you took something that does not belong to you." Rebecca frowned. "What are you talking about?" A pause, then, "My life." Rebecca's breath caught, her mind raced, then suddenly it clicked. "You are," she whispered. "Yes," the woman said, "Johnson's ex-wife." The room felt cold. Rebecca stood still. "What do you want?" she asked. The answer came softly. "Everything back." The line cut. Rebecca lowered the phone slowly. Her hands trembled. This was not over. Not even close. That evening, Rebecca told Johnson everything. Every word, every call, every threat. Johnson's face darkened. "I should have expected this," he said quietly. Dora looked worried. "What will she do?" she asked. Johnson exhaled slowly. "She has already lost everything," he said. "But some people do not know how to walk away." Rebecca felt a chill. "So what happens now?" she asked. Johnson looked at her, then said something that surprised her. "We stand," he said simply. Rebecca blinked. "Stand?" "Yes," he said. "We don't run. We don't hide. We face it." Dora reached for Rebecca's hand. "You are not alone," she said. Rebecca looked at both of them, and for the first time, she believed it. Months passed. The threats stopped, or maybe they just changed shape. Rebecca focused on her life. Johnson kept his word again. He supported her education. She gained admission. University, the dream she had once whispered to herself, now real. She studied hard, day and night. No excuses, no fear. And she succeeded. Years later, she stood tall, graduation gown, certificate in hand, tears in her eyes. Dora sat proudly in the front row, Johnson beside her, clapping, smiling. Rebecca looked at them, then up at the sky, and for a moment she saw the girl she used to be, walking that dusty road, carrying bread, stopping for a stranger, choosing kindness when she had nothing. Her chest tightened, tears rolled down her cheeks, because now she understood. That moment, that small decision, had changed everything. She joined Johnson's company, started small, learned fast, worked harder than anyone, and slowly she rose, step by step, position by position, until one day she stood in a glass office, looking out over Lagos, as the brand manager of one of the biggest companies in Nigeria. Rebecca, the bread seller, now leading meetings, making decisions, living a life she never imagined. That night, she sat alone, looking out at the city lights. Her phone rested beside her, silent. She picked it up, scrolled through old contacts, stopped at one name, Dora. She smiled, then her eyes filled again, because the truth was simple, and very powerful. If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.